Welcome back to Fuji. It's race 2 for Ferrari Challenge Japan this weekend, our third round of the season. Strictly, we are now past the midway point of the year, just as soon as this second race kicks into life. It will be 30 minutes plus one lap of racing once again in Ferrari Challenge Japan. And based on yesterday's race, I think we are in for a compelling battle here in today's race. It was a win yesterday, first win of the season for Nobuhiro Imada, who starts on row 2 of the grid this time around. And Imada taking a win makes things very interesting at the top of the premier category of Ferrari Challenge Japan. That is Trofeo Pirelli. Tadao Uematsu came into this weekend as the points leader there, and he will remain the points leader. In fact, his gap will have only grown since coming into this weekend. It was Suzuka dominator Miki Koyama who was second in the standings. So it'll be a bit closer for second, third, fourth position in the points, but Tadao Uematsu will be continuing to ever so slightly grow that gap at the sharp end of the standings, and we'll see how this race changes things. This middle phase of the season could be hugely critical for the rest of the year. We have, of course, dignitaries from across the spectrum here in the global Ferrari family with us this weekend, because this is not just a Ferrari Challenge Japan round, this is Ferrari Racing Days Fuji. We have the Clienti programs here. We have the Formula One cars out on circuit being driven by their owners, the XX program cars, the fabulous Ferrari 499P Modificata, the special gentleman customer version of the car that won Le Mans just last week for the third year in a row. And of course we should say a massive congratulations to the AF Corsa team on their results at Le Mans with that number 83 car. Hansen, Yifie, and of course Robert Kubica taking the win there. A very exciting trio of drivers, and certainly very cool to see the yellow Ferrari on the top step. The Ferrari Challenge Japan cars, of course, Ferrari 296 Challenge cars, predominantly speaking. However, there are also Ferrari 488 Challenges out on the circuit, the fabulous turbocharged 3.9-litre V8 powered cars, the previous generation, against the 2.9-litre V6s of the current front runner, the 296 Challenge. And there's the driver that won in the 488 class yesterday, and that is the always frenetic Deske with his distinct livery upon his car. Now, actually, an interesting point that Deske made in the post-race comments. He says, that's my first time winning in Ferrari Challenge since the 458 Challenge Evo, which I think dates back his previous win potentially to 2016, which, I mean, you could have fooled me, Deske. He's always been up there and fighting, but if that is indeed the case, that is an incredible little statistic. His first win in the better part of a decade. And I also speculated during yesterday's race, as we see there John Leo, but we speculated during yesterday's race that Deske is probably going to have a 296 sooner rather than later, and he actually confirmed yesterday that he's got a 296 Challenge on order, and that is coming in August. So whether that arrives with Deske and his team in time for the season finale at Okayama, we'll have to wait and see. But great to see him out there in the 488 Challenge Evo and taking the fight to the other competition in the 488 class, which is just part of the recipe that has given us a huge 38-car grid for this weekend. A gigantic field of Ferrari 296 and 488 Challenge Evo machinery. And it is really cool to see such a big grid. It's a great indicator of this national Ferrari Challenge concept once again working out and proving popular with the marketplace. Of course, Ferrari Challenge UK was the first of that ilk, a national Ferrari Challenge series in the modern era. But we are seeing the Australian Series, the Australasia Championship, of course, and indeed Ferrari Challenge Japan now as well. Here's your grid. Sotomuto on pole position alongside Akihiro Suzuki, Nobuhiro Imada and Yasutaka Shirasaki on row 2. Kopashel Tsutomu Shimayama again strong in 5th alongside Uematsu, Yagura, Coldmax bringing us down to 8th. Then it's Isozaki and Saito, Yaneda and Yamatatsu next. Kunihiro and Shibata, followed by Phil Kim and Hiwatashi, bringing us down to 16th. Then it's the first of the Kopashel AM drivers, Alex Fox, wanting to do better than he did yesterday with the DNF. Falcon, Liang Shenyu, Hiroyuki Katayama, Komatsu, Fukui, Sahara Matsumoto, Shigaki, Yamaguchi, Katsumata, Desuke in the first of the 488, Takaoka, Leo, Kurikawa, Nozaki, taking us down to 32nd. Kako, J, Koga, Hirota, and Yamaki and Kane Kim taking us down to 38th position. A huge grid of cars. A record grid for Ferrari Challenge Japan. Yesterday's winners, Nobuhiro Imada, the winner in the Trofeo Pirelli category. He put his win yesterday down to experience. He wanted to try and get pole position for today's race, but he's starting in 3rd position there on the 2nd row. Kanji Yagura was very happy with his start to the race. He avoided some of the dramas that we had down into the first corner. We'll see if he can claim a 2nd consecutive win. Of course, Desuke looking like the favourite in the 488 Challenge Evo class coming into this race. He was the winner there yesterday. Tsutomu Shimayama using that incredible pace that we saw from him yesterday. The Kopashel driver fighting for an overall podium for much of the race. He was the winner yesterday and will be looking for similar joys and similar successes today. And then Liang Shenyu, for the first time winning in the Kopashel AM category, only his 3rd race, and we saw him at the sharp end. These are highlights from yesterday's race. Sotomuto starting from pole position, some dramas and spins all through the field, as is often the case. A couple of safety car interventions happening during the race as well. Sotomuto unfortunately received a penalty during the race yesterday, and the car had an issue towards the end which handed a victory to that man that we saw celebrating, Nobuhiro Imada, the winner from Saturday, and we will see him back out there from 3rd position trying to replicate that performance. That with Suzuki there on the front row of the grid alongside Sotomuto, it's a very compelling start to this race, I feel. 60 seconds until the formation lap then. The cars will soon be rolling away. If you are joining us for the first time for Ferrari Challenge Japan, firstly, welcome. Secondly, you'll see some color coding, you'll see some different flavors of driver out there on the circuit. Once we are rolling, the cars with the red banners over their windscreens and the cars that have red numbers assigned to them on the rear of the car and indeed on our timing tower, those are the Trofeo Pirelli drivers. That's a hearty mix of young professionals and the very most experienced drivers in Ferrari Challenge Japan, and indeed the very quickest drivers in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Trofeo Pirelli AM is just a little step down from that, so drivers who are just as fast can often fight for overall podiums, but typically speaking they won't be young professionals. It will be the most evolved of our gentleman drivers, our amateur drivers, that end up in Trofeo Pirelli AM. Kopashel is a a step further down than that. If you think of it like the FIA grading system, we've gone from platinum to gold, then to silver with Copa Shell, which is for amateur drivers who are either remarkably quick straight out of the gate or at the very least are showing great promise. Copa Shell AM is again kind of a step down from that. Drivers often in their very earliest stages of a racing career in Ferrari Challenge Japan. And then of course the 488 category is fairly self-explanatory. That's for anyone who is running a Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo this season. You see the grid being reiterated down there at the bottom of your screen. And we will be looking for a good rolling start here. One thing that I alluded to at the top of yesterday's, or not at the top, but during yesterday's broadcast, was the potential that we were getting to 300 kilometers an hour on the main straight. And my thanks to Filippo Zanier from the Ferrari media team for the statistic. We did have a car break, and only one car break the 300 kilometer an hour barrier. That of course translates to 186 miles an hour. And Yasutaka Shirazaki was the speed freak that got to 300 kilometers an hour before stepping on the brakes into the first corner here at the Fuji Speedway. So these 700 horsepower cars, dehybridized versus the hybrid powered 296 GTB, with a huge amount of downforce, the most downforce of any Ferrari Challenge car that we've ever had. And of course more downforce does mean typically a bit more drag as well, but with that power these cars are hugely fast in a straight line, quicker than I think just about any contemporary GT racing car of the day. Therefore the racing is always exciting and the driving experience for these competitors is thrilling, which is why we're seeing the biggest ever grid here in Ferrari Challenge Japan, which is why we're seeing the biggest grids this season in the UK, and of course the continued strength of our other series and the debuting Ferrari Challenge Australasia. Now it's interesting that the top two are well out of formation here. There has been a miscommunication. Akihiro Suzuki is on the wrong side of the circuit, and only now does he form up the grid properly. That's going to make things really complicated, I feel, as we run down to the first corner. We're now in the proper formation, but that took a little while. Sotomuto is going to be the driver that leads them down to the first turn then, in the number 88 car, the car that has won more races than any other this season, in the hands of both Muto and Miki Koyama. The M Auto Italia number 88 on the front row alongside Auto Speciale's Akihiro Suzuki. The red lights are still on and they're off. We are racing in Ferrari Challenge Japan. And look at that start from Nobuhiro Imada and also from Kanji Agura. Imada, though, with the best start of anybody. He's all the way around the outside for the race lead here, up against Sotomuto. Respectful racing room given, I'm sure, by Sotomuto. They're still side by side. Who's going to get the better of this? It's going to be Imada. Nobuhiro Imada from third on the grid is now our race leader, but they're still side by side as they run through 100R for the first time. An incredible getaway from Nobuhiro Imada as this race has gotten underway. Side by side, a little bit of a touch between them. And somehow Sotomuto has the lead, but he's still got Imada beside him. They've been side by side for the entire lap. This is crazy racing. Finally, something has to give, and Nobuhiro Imada drops down to second place. And look who's up to third, Tsutomu Shimoyama. What a start from Shimoyama. Again, the Copa Shell driver is finding himself fighting for overall podiums. He's supposed to be in effectively the third tier of the driver classification, but he's having a fabulous weekend here at Fuji. The 144 car in a spin. Yamato Yamaguchi, and one other car involved there as well. But for now, it's Saito. I think it might have been the 101 of Fukui potentially that was involved in that collision, but we'll keep our eyes on timing and scoring to confirm that. It was indeed Fukui as well that was involved with Yamaguchi there, so two drivers tumbling through the order. Someone we should mention as having a fairly poor first lap, Motohiko Isosaki, down to 22nd coming across the line for the first time. So Isosaki of the Trofeo Pirelli AM category, who finished second in class yesterday, has not had the ideal beginning to this race. White flags down at the hairpin / chicane section of the circuit at the very bottom of the course, and that's because we've got intervention vehicles on the circuit there as the 144 is trying to move on. We've got the safety car out, and in has come Akihiro Suzuki. Suzuki in the 17. He must have an issue of some description. Looks like everything's pointing in roughly the right direction on the car, but one of a couple into the pit lane. The safety car then out on the circuit for the first time in this race. Sotomuto then will lead them back out there. Oh, I think that car just came out on a red light on pit lane there. They wouldn't typically allow a car out into the midst of that safety car queue. We get a replay now of the race start, and we can see Akihiro Suzuki getting swallowed up by the field. After all of that kind of discomfort and trying to figure out where he should be, taking the wrong side of the course, of course, on the run down to the start-finish line, and then figuring out where he needed to be. I think maybe just slightly wrong-footed himself there, and then got slightly shoved out wide as well. Don't think there was any contact there down into the first corner. He was just taking evasive action, but he ended up having to wait to rejoin at the very rear of the field, and subsequently he rejoins the race, albeit he rejoins the race a lap down, and that is not the race Akihiro Suzuki would have wanted. Would have been sitting second in the point standings behind I have my information all over the place. He would have been behind Tadao Uematsu in the point standings coming into today's race, and Uematsu will, as long as his race is straightforward from this point, further extend that championship lead. And in fact, both Sotomuto and Nobuhiro Imada could leapfrog up to second in the points here, with Suzuki running around at the back of the field. Interesting times then in that battle for the championship honours in Trofeo Pirelli. I'm still stunned by Tsutomu Shimoyama this weekend. He wasn't with us last time out in Autopolis. He was with us in Suzuka. Now, he was good at Suzuka. He was on the fringe of the overall top 10. But he didn't claim any victories in the Copa Shell category. And certainly moving forward into fighting for overall podiums is a big leap. We see there some of the other kerfuffles further back in the field, and goodness me, that's not a comfortable way to enter that particular corner. 242 having a big spin there. Assisted spin. You can see there's some bodywork damage on Shuichi Koga's car. The Ideal dealership entered car, one of two. His cohort from the Ideal dealership, unfortunately, is Yamato Yamaguchi. So both of the Ideal entries have had dramas. There's the 101 car of Yasuhito Fukui that we alluded to being involved in first lap dramas, and it's into the pit lane for the Cornish Shiba dealership. Now, how are things looking down at the bottom end of the circuit at turns 10, 11 and 12? Will the lights go out on top of that Ferrari 296 safety car? Wait with bated breath to see. So your class leaders, of course, your overall race leader, Sotomuto, the esports star who's been transitioning over recent seasons into quote-unquote real-life motorsport. As the safety car lights are out, we are going to go back to racing this lap. Muto has done just about everything there is to do at the highest echelons of sim racing, and we're increasingly seeing him succeeding at translating that into real-life motorsport. Nothing he's driven has ever been quite so potent and powerful as the 296 Challenge, which he was introduced to last month ahead of the Autopolis race. He has been doing magnificently well. He leads overall and in Trofeo Pirelli. Shimoyama, third overall, leads the Copa Shell class. Trofeo Pirelli AM, led by Yasutaka Shirasaki, in fourth position. So you've got three class leaders in the top four as Muto pulls the pin. We're back to racing speeds. We have just under 1/3 distance in the books in this race. To cover the rest of the leaders briefly, Alex Fox leads the Shell Am category in 12th overall. Deske is the first of your 488s. He's all the way up in 18th position. He's picking up some places in the early stages of this race, well clear of the other 488 runners. Sotomuto runs into the first corner, leading this race. Everybody else fanning their way out through these first moments of the lap. Looks like everybody was relatively spread there by the time we got onto the main straight, because Sotomuto pulled the pin relatively fast. That helped a few drivers retain their position, gain some car lengths over their adversaries. Muto, Imada, Shimoyama, Shirasaki, your top four in this race. Of course, Yasutaka Shirasaki last year had a great season in Copa Shell and was moved up for this year to Trofeo Pirelli AM. Has been continually improving his performances since arriving into Ferrari Challenge in 2023. Cardio surgeon continues to show his stuff, but what about Tsutomu Shimoyama? Missed around last year, still finished 6th in the Copa Shell standings and took one victory in the Copa Shell class in 2024. But this year, Tsutomu Shimoyama, and this weekend specifically, he has taken a big leap forward. I do wonder if maybe he spent some time at this track ahead of this weekend with his driver coach, because the level of performance is searingly impressive. There's Alex Fox still leading the way. We just saw him through shot in 12th overall. He's in the basically plain red Ferrari just ahead of the patriotically liveried car of Phil Kim. In fact, no, it's Norikazu Shibata, sorry, just behind him. So he's got a Copa Shell driver between himself and the rest of the Copa Shell Am field, which is a useful thing to have, certainly. This is the final technical section of the Fuji Speedway. Of course, this was the most major change to the circuit when it was renovated for the 2005 season. Previously a big, long, fast right-hander was the final moment of the lap, and it was the entirety of the final sector, and in its place was built this final technical section, which makes the circuit a lot more balanced overall, and of course did eventually bring Formula One back to Fuji for a time in the late 2000s. Japan's most impressive racing facilities for sure. Here is your Trofeo Pirelli Am battle. Shirasaki is leading Kanji Agura at the moment. Just ahead of them is Tadao Uematsu, who has managed to move his way up to 4th position. But Shirasaki and Agura separated by just on half a second as they go through the first sector split, and lurking just about 1.5 seconds back is Cold Max. So keep an eye on Cold Max, he's always a threat. Ryotaro Saito is dropping through the field. Saito, who I think was running seconds in Copa Shell, has now dropped all the way down to 16th and 5th in class. He has just gone through the first sector split, but I'm wondering if maybe there was a slight hiccup at the first corner for him. It's Yuliang Chen that we see there in the 193 car, briefly running 3rd in class at the moment after claiming his first win in Copa Shell Am yesterday. Another big step forward for him. Look at that gap that's building though at the front of the field. Sotomuto 3.1 seconds clear of Imada already. We've only been back racing for 6 minutes and already he's gained 3 seconds. That is really impressive stuff from Sotomuto. Muto and Imada have slightly dropped Shimoyama as well in 3rd place, but Tadao Uematsu is going to have to do some hard graft to get himself onto the overall podium. He's sat there in 4th position, but he's 3.5 seconds back from Shimoyama. Here's Deske then, leading the 488s in 18th overall, the only 488 Challenge Evo car in the top 20. There is Ryotaro Saito. I mentioned that he was dropping through the field. He's continued to do so, and he's now in the pit lane. A big shame for the Copa Shell driver. Into the pits he comes. Also in is Hirota in the 201.488. That is the car, I believe, that we saw colliding with Koga in the 242 earlier on. So that's 2 cars into pit lane. The Ferrari technicians immediately go to work to try and get their driver back out on the circuit, but either way, both cars are now a lap down as the leading machines go flying past. Looks to me like Shirasaki and Yagura are steadily gaining on Tadao Uematsu. So 4th overall. Maybe being slightly caught here by 5th and 6th place, and of course for Yasutaka Shirasaki, that's the last thing he wants. He's had just a few tenths over Kanji Agura in the battle for the Trofeo Pirelli Am lead all race long. And what we're seeing here could be an additional drama if Shirasaki catches up to Uematsu, starts to catch some of that dirty air. Less prevalent, of course, in a GT car, but still a factor given the amount of downforce that these 296 Challenge machines are making. It will be an advantage on the main straight if he gets a bit of a tow from Uematsu, but it will be a big disadvantage around some of the twisties. 870 kilos of downforce these cars generate at 250 kilometers an hour. There's your average laps from Sotomuto, and look at that consistency. High 38, high 38, low 39, low 39. Driving to a delta by the looks of it and steadily increasing that advantage over Nobuhiro Imada. See they're rejoining, one of the cars rejoining the race further back, but for now we focus on Shirasaki and Yagura. Yagura was the winner yesterday, of course, will be most keen to replicate that result again. Shirasaki has had a mixed season so far this year. Suzuka didn't go quite to plan for him. He was outside the overall top 10 in both races. He's yet to claim a win in class this year. He finished 4th overall in the second race at Autopolis. However, he was still behind Motohiko Isozaki, who secured an overall podium as well as the win in Trofeo Pirelli Am. So if Shirasaki can do it today, it is win number 1 of the season. And of course, as we are now into the second half of this year, 10 races across 5 destinations, it is critical they start notching those victories up, isn't it? And Shirasaki on course at the moment for victory number 2, of the season. As he won race 1 at Autopolis, I am forgetting. He finished 4th overall in race 1 at Autopolis, and that was his first victory of the season in Trofeo Pirelli Am. So ignore me, he does have a win to his name in Trofeo Pirelli Am, but he hasn't had to fight quite so hard for one yet this year, and that's what Kanji Agura is doing, certainly putting up a big fight. Worth noting that they're both dropping cold max, so cold max has fallen 3.6 seconds back now from Shirasaki and Yagura. So for Kanji, that means he can focus solely on what's going on through his windscreen. So this is 5th overall. This is the Trofeo Pirelli Am lead battle. We're at 2/3 distance in this race. Sotomuto leading overall from Nobuhiro Imada. Tsutomu Shimayama is once again proving to be a force to be reckoned with here at Fuji, running 3rd overall and leading the Copa Shell category. Was 4th in the standings coming into this weekend. Missed Autopolis and notched up 2 third places in Suzuka. But Shimayama has come on strong this year, or this weekend even, I should say, in Ferrari Challenge Japan. See that damaged 201 car continuing to make its way around. Back out on the circuit after the team hurriedly got to work on it. Here's your battle for 2nd in Copa Shell. Masari Yaneda coming under increased scrutiny here from Phil Kim for 2nd in class, 9th and 10th overall, behind Yamatatsu, who is a Trofeo Pirelli AM driver, so this is the Copa Shell battle. Masari Yaneda in that 1-2-4 car, looking to get some more points on the board. Phil Kim came into this weekend as the championship leader within Copa Shell. And that will still be the case after race 1 here at Fuji. Kim looking to try and net his first title here in Ferrari Challenge Japan this year, the Korean racer. Riding in the wheel tracks right now of Masari Yaneda, and you can be sure that he wants that 2-point increase. It's 15 points for a win, 12 for second, third is 10 points. And I think Phil Kim is going to consider those points worth the risk if he can possibly get an opportunity to find a way by here. South Korea's Phil Kim for Nicole Competizione, closing in on the Cornes Osaka car. Nicole Competizione were leading the Coppa Dealer category as well coming into this weekend, effectively our team's championship with all drivers representing a dealership. Nicole Competizione with a 2-point advantage over M-Auto Italia coming into this weekend. Remains to be seen if that will hold strong into the season finale, or into the last 2 rounds of the season, I should say. Lots of cloud cover overhead, and I must say it looks gloomy out there. It looks a little bit muggy and slippery out there. Hopefully it remains dry. The difference in the levels of grip they're experiencing are markable or notable from yesterday. In there running it a bit wide. Yaneda though really did run deep into turn 10 there and really compromised his run through that entire section, and you can see how close Phil Kim is now. It was 7/10 at the second sector split just before the braking zone for turn 10, and that's not the case anymore. There's been a big incident up ahead. One of the 488s is involved with that, and I think potentially some of our Pirelli AM front runners as well. We'll need to see which drivers are involved with that. But there has been a drama through the final couple of turns. Kanji Agura in the 51 car is one of the parties, and I think potentially some of the 488s that were a lap down also involved. Yasutaka Shirasaki has continued on his way. Cold Max has inherited second in class in Pirelli AM. While that's going on, increased scrutiny between Yaneda and Kim, and then also Alex Fox is under pressure from Shibata for 10th overall. They're running in separate classes, however. But a huge shame here for Kanji Agura as the safety car is out. There's the 211 Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo. Kane Kim, therefore, involved in that. So Yasutaka Shirasaki there squeezed the 211. And Shirasaki was involved, but he got the car back underway. I did think I saw the black and white car of Shirasaki initially. And so Shirasaki squeezed through a gap, I think rather startling Kane Kim, and unfortunately Yagura was there to be collected. Navigating the traffic, always a difficult thing. On that occasion, it's caught out Kanji Agura. So the race is neutralized. We're under safety car. We've got effectively 3.5 minutes plus 1 lap of racing left to go. Now, if they can get this done in 2 laps, the recovery of the cars, we might end up with a one-lap dash. If you're Sotomuto, you absolutely don't want that scenario to play out. He does have a buffer between him there. It's not Nobuhiro Imada following him in the line as one of the Copa Shell Am drivers that has ended up between Sotomuto and Nobuhiro Imada. Remains to be seen, of course, how long the recovery takes there. I think there is a couple of gaps in the fence around that final corner of the lap, so there should be a recovery vehicle relatively close by, but there's multiple cars to collect and not a lot of time to do it, so it's touch and go here. If they can do it in 2 safety car laps, there will still be 1 lap of the race left on the table to go back to green flag with. I think quite a few parties will be willing that not to happen. Sotomuto, of course, there in the lead, although he does have that buffer between himself and Imada. But I'm looking at Shirasaki and Coldmax as an example. They're right beside each other in 5th and 6th position. And then also Yaneda and Phil Kim fighting it out for 2nd in Copa Shell in 8th and 9th overall, as it now is, Yaneda and Phil Kim. Those battles are anything but resolved, and if we do go back to green, then there could be some fireworks. Into the pits there comes Phil Kim. Well, we were just talking about the potential for this battle to be exciting, but Phil Kim heading into the pit lane, and it's a drive-through penalty for the Nicole Competizione driver. Not sure what the drive-through is for exactly, but either way, Phil Kim is in. Now, hopefully, he didn't overtake cars there as he went into the pit lane. I don't think that would be particularly looked upon fondly. He rejoins the race. Now, again, to my understanding, there should have been a red light there to stop him doing that. You can see there is a red light at the end of pit lane, and I think that would be displaying the same on the pit exit. So whether Phil Kim has correctly served a drive-through penalty there, I feel is possibly up for debate. So then we await confirmation as to what happens next. The clock has hit 0. So this means we're on the penultimate lap of the race, officially speaking. Will it be the final lap behind the safety car? It looked like the recovery process was firmly ongoing and not showing any signs of an immediate stoppage when we went past the final corner last time by. Fuji Marshals working hard here, of course, to try and get the racing back on. Typically, the lights have gone out there at turn 10 if we are to go back to green flag. I suspect we maybe aren't getting that final lap dash. Safety car lights are still on. And indeed, the recovery process is going to take a good amount of time more, I feel. So, understandably, this race is likely then to end under safety car. We'll be going on to the final lap this time. Sotomuto will be breathing a sigh of relief. No last twist in the tail for him. So your order as they come across the line to begin what will be the final lap of the race here under safety car conditions is Sotomuto in the lead, Imada second, Shimoyama in the Copa Shell lead, running third overall, Tadao Uematsu in fourth, Yasutaka Shirasaki in fifth position, set to win the Trofeo Pirelli AM class here, ahead of Coldmax and Yamatatsu. Masaru Yaneda is eighth overall, running second in Copa Shell, and then in ninth position our Shell Am leader, Alex Fox, the Frenchman, having a great run here today. Has been on the fringes of the top dozen and slowly moved his way through the field into ninth overall in the Shell Am lead. Shibata in 10th, Phil Kim in 11th. Kim, having served that drive-through penalty, did end up losing 2 positions. But again, the question will be, was there a red light at the end of that pit lane? I suspect there would have been under regulation, so we'll keep an eye on the post-race results. But for now, Phil Kim running 4th in Copa Shell, so he won't be receiving a podium trophy regardless. Of course, your leader in the 488 category is once again Deske in the 266 car, running 20th overall. For Sotomuto, yesterday's race was rather disappointing. A drive-through penalty for being a bit too eager to start the formation lap at the start of the race, and then an issue following that as well. After the delights of a debut victory last time out in Autopolis and a second place following that in race 2, this is more like it for Muto. He will once again receive a checkered flag for the second time this season. Sotomuto will cross the line as an overall and a Trofeo Pirelli winner in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Muto wins it from Imada in second and Shimoyama, the Copa Shell winner, in third place. Yasutaka Shirasaki does cross the line in 5th overall behind Tadao Uematsu to claim that Pirelli Am victory. Of course, even though the safety car has peeled off, the driver's not allowed to exchange positions on that long run down to the start-finish line. So everyone crossing the line in orderly fashion after 17 laps of racing. Alex Fox, I feel, will be particularly happy with his Copa Shell Am triumph, but no one will feel quite as much redemption as Sotomuto. From his own mistake yesterday, causing a drive-through penalty, to now standing atop the podium again. Tsutomu Shimoyama with a second consecutive victory in Copa Shell. By far his best weekend in Ferrari Challenge. A really impressive showing here. Yesterday he said that he did 3 solid days of practice before round 3, so as I kind of alluded to, I thought he may have been here ahead of the event, and actually confirmed that yesterday in the post-event press conference. And wanted more of the same for Sunday, and he has secured just that. with third overall and a class victory. And Yasutaka Shirasaki, I think, will be relieved that he didn't leave that incident with more damage. Colliding with Kane Kim, and of course Kane Kim ending up to the side of Kanji Agura. There's Alex Fox, your Copa Shell-Am winner. Fox is always a fan of driving on the most prestigious circuits in the world, and made his first appearance in Ferrari Challenge since 2022 at the season opening weekend on the Japanese Grand Prix support bill. We weren't sure whether that was going to be a one-off or not, but he has seemingly committed to the full season. Has been driving very impressively this year in the Copa Shell-Am division, and now brings home a win for Yanase Fiorano Moturi, his chosen dealership. Sotomuto celebrating the win. P1, my friend, P1. What a result for Sotomuto. See the celebrations going on here for so many of our drivers. Everyone always happy to get to the end of these races and to now take in the celebrations and the podiums, but few will be as relieved as Shirasaki that the car got to the flag after that collision. Class win for Yasutaka. Finds his camera lens and says P1. Win number 2 of the season for Shirasaki. That will bring him closer to the points lead. He missed out on race 2 at Autopolis. And Alex Fox is delighted. We see him out of the car there. It's been part of the Ferrari Challenge fold on and off since 2019, but has been thriving this year in Challenge Japan and now claims a win in the class for the first time this season. On a weekend with huge competition as well in Shell-Am, I think that every driver who wins in the category can be pretty impressed with what they've achieved. 38 cars in total across all classes on the grid this weekend, and I think getting on for 20 of them were Shell-Am cars. Here's the celebration we never want to miss. Desuke's done it again, and with it will come a signature celebration. Get ready, everyone. If you're within vicinity, you're getting a hug. And if you've got a camera, you're getting a pose. Good job, Desuke. Desuke is such a bubbly personality. Also one of several drivers in the paddock to come from a medical background. There have been occasions in the past when there's been an incident on circuit and Deske's actually pulled up and lent an extra hand over the course of his racing career. He's a dedicated racer, but also just a really good person. We've seen plenty of evidence of that over the years. And loving his 488 Challenge Evo, he said, "I just love how this car looks, I love driving it, but I think going up against the 296 Challenge cars, he's realised that perhaps the performance is a step better in that 296. Well, he knew that anyway, but practically now fighting against the 296 Challenge cars in the 488 Challenge Evo, he's seen for himself the step forward in terms of out of corner acceleration and downforce and of course power. And as we've heard, he is going to take delivery of a 296 Challenge car in August, so whether he's in one for the first time in August, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe he'll stick with the 488 to try and fight for that title in the 488 category. It remains to be seen. Of course, I suspect a factor will be if the car gets delivered in time to be prepared in his signature livery or not. I can't imagine him racing a factory just delivered red. He'll need to get a special colour scheme on the car. It's Deske, it's what he does. Everyone waiting then on the podiums as the Ferrari Racing Days event continues here. If it's anything like yesterday, we might be serenaded by some Clienti cars as these podium sessions go on. So the podium awaits. Of course, there'll be podiums across all 5 classes this weekend in Ferrari Challenge Japan, as we saw yesterday as well. There's the unofficial race after the race to see who can start spraying the champagne quickest. Get a stopwatch on Cold Max for that one. He's usually pretty nimble when it comes to the cork bottles. But when we do get drivers up there onto the podium, we will be starting, of course, with Trofeo Pirelli. And Sotomuta, for the second time, will be a Ferrari Challenge winner. He's raced here at Fuji previously in the 24 hours of Fuji, if I'm not mistaken, as part of Super Taikyu. But this will be an exciting new high for him to stand on the famed podium here at the Fuji Speedway with Mount Fuji itself in proximity to the circuit, looking out from the podium to the filled out massive grandstand here. Must be quite the goosebump inducing moment for our drivers. Getting a look then at the results. Muto, Imada, Shimayama, Uematsu, Coldmax, your top 5. And working your way down, of course, Alex Fox winning in Copa Deske winning among the 488s. 27 cars on the lead lap. Of course, a late safety car bunching everyone back together. Few drivers will be disappointed. Suzuki, Saito down there, both a couple of laps down after visits to the pit lane. Kanji Agura, of course, with his late race collision as well. Quite a few front runners in their respective classes not finishing where they'd have wanted or needed to in that race. But it must be said, with 38 cars on the grid, I think our drivers, by and large, have done a fabulous job this weekend. Space a premium in those first corners of the lap for sure. And largely, they have picked their spots well. So then the congregated masses watching on, all of the teams, of course, supporting their drivers, and a lot of the teams that don't have a driver on the podium proceedings will still pop up and watch the presentations. It is a close-knit paddock here in Ferrari Challenge Japan, a very respectful paddock, as is the case across all Ferrari Challenge categories. You can tell who those guys are cheering. The Deske fans. Very good. So then the podiums, I believe, are about to get started here. Indeed, Tadao Uematsu to the third step of the podium for Trofeo Pirelli. Our first presentation. Nobuhiro Imada. Imada for second place this time. Would have wanted the double win, but still really solid points and a good weekend for him overall. But Sota Muto has done it again. Would have been slightly disappointed with how yesterday panned out, but has more than made up for it today with a race win. Of course, Nobuhiro Imada will have scored more points than anybody today, or across the weekend, I should say, so that will help him in the championship going into the second half of the season. is the trophy to Tadao Uematsu, who continues to lead the championship in Trofeo Pirelli. Sottomuto for M Auto Italia, the 4th win of the season for the team, the 2nd of the year for this young driver, this esports convert, who is really showing that that car is the one to beat and that he is adapting to a big GT car in great standards. Of course, the M Auto Italia representative there on the podium as well. The pictures are taken. And the next step, of course, will be champagne spray for our top 3. The Pirelli Award, of course, also with Sottomuto as the winner of the Trofeo Pirelli class. Here we go. Celebrations at Fuji for our Trofeo Pirelli top 3. Oh, Soto, you've got to be quicker than that. Fire back. Oh, it's not quite worked for him here. There we go. Seem to remember that he had a bit of a fight to get it working at Autopolis as well, but if the only part of his game that's flawed as a driver is getting the champagne out of the bottle, then I think that's okay. Next up will be the Trofeo Pirelli AM podium. And 3rd step of that podium going to Motohiko Isosaki. That's the 2nd step, my friend. To the left, to the left. Motohiko. Oh, he wanted P1. Crafty Motohiko. We know what you were doing. Oh, gosh. Right. Sorry, that was Yes, it was Motohiko Isosaki. Yamatatsu, of course, to the 2nd step of that podium. And Cold Max has won the class. Okay, so there's been a change to the order, which I didn't spot initially on our results rundown, so my apologies for that. Yasutaka Shirasaki has received a penalty, and I think that penalty might be somewhere in the range of 30 seconds. Yes, it will have been a 30-second penalty, and that was for a collision, I'm guessing, that we saw, of course, that caused that safety car. So Cold Max is the class winner. Isosaki up to 3rd. Yamatatsu up to 2nd. Apologies, I didn't clock that when we were running through the results. But yes, Shirasaki has ended up losing his class win, and Cold Max, quite gladly, laps up the spoils and takes it on instead. Trofeo Pirelli Am win then for Coldmax. He was lurking not too far away from that Yagura Shirasaki scrap throughout the race, and ultimately keeping his nose clean and watching the battle from a couple of seconds behind has led to receiving the winner's trophy and the Pirelli trophy. That will do nicely. A really exciting race then for Coldmax. He, again, kept himself relatively to himself during the race, seemed to have his own stretch of tarmac, but class win, he'll absolutely take that. Oh, and he's been beaten to the champagne. That doesn't usually happen. There we go. Coldmax likes to be the first one armed in a champagne spray, but didn't quite get it done that time around. Congratulations to him. Third place for much of the race, leading to a win because of Kanji Agura's late race DNF, and then Yasutaka Shirasaki was judged to be responsible for that collision with Kane Kim, which sent him into Yagura. And so Yasutaka Shirasaki unfortunately demoted from the win in the Pirelli Am category. Next up, of course, will be the Copa Shell category. And it is Norikazu Shibata who takes the third step of the podium here. Making sure that his logo gets the center of attention. Masaru Yaneda to the second step. A strong 7th overall, but nobody today within the class had the pace of this man, Tsutomu Shimoyama. What an effort this weekend. Got some practice in ahead of this third round of the season, and of course that's hugely beneficial because of course we're here again next month. Fuji doubling up this season on the Ferrari Challenge Japan package. And so having some practice, getting your head around Fuji along with your driver coach before the racing begins, that is a very smart move, and Shimoyama a step ahead this weekend. Tsutomu Shimoyama receives his winner's trophy then, and his representative there from the Cornish Shiba dealership receives a trophy as well. It's a closely run thing, this year's Coppa dealer category, just a couple of points in it at the sharp end coming into this weekend. I think that Cornish Shiba may well be the new leaders in Coppa dealer, courtesy of Shimoyama's efforts. With M-Auto Italia not far behind, it was 66 points for Nicole Competizione, 64 for M-Auto Italia, and 63 for Cornish Shiba. I believe that Shiba will have ascended to the top step with the efforts of Shimoyama. Always love to see the different approaches to celebration. Some of them are fairly understated. Other drivers really soak in the moment and show the joy for everything it's worth. And certainly Shibata comes into that second category, really does love his racing and all of the celebrations that come with a good result as well. Next up, it'll be Trofeo Pirelli Am. Yang Chen-yu, the driver who won yesterday, will be on the third step for this race. He is making sure he's on the right step. Hiroyuki Katayama onto the second step of the podium with a good result there. But Alex Fox ultimately classified 8th overall after the penalties, finishing within the top 10 on the road overall. Really seemed to gel here with Fuji. I think he's done a couple of events here previously. And in this return season to Ferrari Challenge, it's great to see him doing so well. I do wonder if he'll be at Finale Mondiali to take the fight to some of the best drivers from around the world, that huge festival feel that we always have here at that event. It's always great to watch the Finale Mondiali. Coming up onto the podium there as well was, I believe that was Tetsuo Matsumoto, who will be the winner of our gentleman driver subclass in Shell Am. But the Frenchman Alex Fox receives his P1 trophy. His dealership representative from Yanase, Fiorano Moturi, receiving his trophy, and then your gentleman driver winner Tetsuo Matsumoto receiving his trophy as well. Time for pictures and champagne for our Trofeo, for our Copa Shell Am drivers. I did say Trofeo Pirelli Am, of course this is Copa Shell Am, the most rookie or gentleman driver centric category. Increasingly we see drivers from this class infringing on the overall top 10. Alex Fox did it today. We saw it several times last year. Matsumoto there, wisely leaving before the champagne can be sprayed, since there wasn't an extra bottle for him. They spray, they shower, and they celebrate. There's one more podium to come for the 488s. With what I'm sure will be our liveliest top step driver in the form of Deske. So we await those 488 drivers for the final celebrations for this timeout at Fuji. Of course, we are in the midst of Ferrari racing days here. Oh my goodness, we have competition for Deske. We have another very excited driver coming up onto the podium, our third place man in the 488 category. That's Shuichi Koga. Jay from Rosso Scuderia, also fairly bubbly. It's an all-hype top three. Here comes Deske to celebrate a win in the class. It's nice to see the joy, isn't it? And this is the entire reason everyone loves Deske in this paddock, because he brings it out of everybody. No one on the podium is going to be subdued as long as Deske is there celebrating. Invites everyone up there to join him. Share in my victory. Share in my joy. Shuichi Koga receives his trophy. Jay from Rosso Scuderia on what I think is his first weekend in the category, taking the second step for the second race in a row, but no one could beat Deske among the 488 drivers today, or indeed all weekend. Last couple of outings for him in that car before he takes delivery of his 296 in August. I hope that we'll see him again on the 12th and 13th of July when we'll be back at Fuji for another run around this legendary circuit. And as the drivers celebrate and pose, we, for the final time, see the pictures taken atop the podium. Safe to say they're enjoying themselves a bit. One last spray of the champagne. One last chance to revel in standing on the podium in Fuji for now. But we will be back in about 3 weeks' time with more Ferrari Challenge Japan at the Fuji Speedway. Cheers to that, says Deske. I'm sure he'll be back. All of our front-running protagonists will be back, of course, for what is the penultimate round of the Ferrari Challenge Japan season, coming up very, very soon indeed. Of course, one more trip to Fuji, and in the second week of August, a visit to Okayama for our season closer before a number of our drivers head to Finale Mondiali to wrap up their year in Mugello in the tail end of October on the 21st through 26th of October, 5-day event technically speaking. But until then, we wait with bated breath for the 12th and 13th of July and the next round of Ferrari Challenge Japan. Lots more Ferrari Challenge action across the world to come between now and then, though, whether it's Valencia, Indianapolis, Sydney or Brands Hatch. A busy few weeks in Ferrari Challenge globally. Make sure you join us for even more racing action. But this is it for Ferrari Racing Days 2025 at Fuji. We've been treated to a pair of stunning races. Side-by-side action from Muto and Imada at the start of the race, and thrills and spills all through the order. Congratulations to our race winners. Congratulations to everybody who made the biggest grid in Ferrari Challenge Japan history possible here overlooking Mount Fuji.